just got back from Atlanta and Charlotte?
Yep, I'm en route back to Nashville.
Oh, wow. All right. So how's the ride back?
It's been great, man. It's been fun driving through the mountains.
Oh, it's beautiful up there.
Yeah.
I need to just take a road trip and just drive through there sometime soon.
Yeah, man. It's gorgeous.
That's where this console came from, was Mark Williams in Charlotte.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So, but anyway, thank you again for joining me on this and doing the interview. It's been really interesting and have a lot of respect for you. So thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean that. Anyway, we left off talking about tape, and we talked a lot about you doing the traveling thing where you're going around talking about using tape machines and to digital audio workstations. So I guess, what is the reception from the general people about that? How are people responding? I mean, obviously the people that are showing up are interested or they wouldn't be there, but I'm curious as to what people's reception is.
It's been overwhelming,
In what way?
Well, one, attendance. Like, if you just went on Facebook right now and said, hey, Atlanta, who here is into tape machines? You might get one like and somebody say no one uses that stuff anymore. And we had 50-some people there, 55, I think. And
wow.
We were at capacity. At the studio and we're turning people away.
Wow.
And they were engaged. I mean, it was like questions and my presentation kind of walks through a series of logical conclusions of like, okay, let's do this, and then we'll do this, right? And people are asking, well, what about this? And it's like, that's next, So they're like totally tracking what's going on. They're totally into it. They're
Awesome.
blown away. And, I make a point of just pulling the machine out of my van and wheeling it in and plugging it in and go. So that it just breaks all the myths by watching it. It doesn't need to be calibrated. It doesn't need this.
You're not having to recalibrate?
No.
Really?
No, I took the same machine. I drove it from Nashville to St. Louis, did a presentation, drove from St. Louis back to Nashville, and then Nashville to Atlanta. I looked at the alignment in Atlanta. It was a little bit off. I'm talking like a quarter dB. I drove to Charlotte. I looked at it again just to show it to people, and then I calibrated it in Charlotte.
That's a lot of moving a big piece of equipment to only be a quarter dB off.
Yeah, and that might just been the tape difference.
That right there, if that's not a selling point, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and it's just a nice way to show people that, instead of just saying, oh, you don't need much maintenance, like this thing's been on the road with me. You know what I mean? And it works great. And just imagine just sitting in your studio. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
that dispels a lot of myths on that right there, because, I know technically you should probably make sure everything's calibrated before every session, but really, if you're using it every day, what's up.
Yeah, totally.
But wow, that blows my mind, because I would assume, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, is how much it was off every time you got there. And sorry, I'm kind of sitting on that. That's amazing.
No, it's fine. It was so close. I had to make sure I was square with the meter and like squint my eyes.
Wow. Well, since we talked last, I've been thinking about the point you made where people were starting to get into the concept of using a tape machine instead of a summing box, which I would love to have one. I especially want a massive passive and some stuff like that, but I don't have that kind of dough. But for a similar price, because I love their stuff, man. Ivana is so just meticulous, and yeah, great gear. But there's a lot of other ones too. The Rupert Neve stuff and several things out there on the market that are awesome. But yeah, the concept, I've been thinking about that a lot in the past couple days since we talked, since you mentioned that. That's huge, that you could have a piece of gear that can do multiple things. It's,
right.
Yeah, like if you've got a microphone, well, like an SM57, for instance, you can use it on a lot of things. So to me, if you're going to invest in something in your studio, that's the best you can do, is whatever piece of gear it is, regardless of price, is if it's versatile. Some pieces of gear are awesome because they do one thing and they're the only thing that does it and they do it very well. But if you're talking dollars and making a living at this, something that is versatile, and I never really thought about a tape machine being that versatile other than using it for like an echo delay or just recording to it or printing to it from Pro Tools.
Right. Well, yeah, the response has been overwhelming, and like this morning there was 4 or 5 Instagram posts where they tagged Mar machines in, and they were just like thanking thanking me for doing it, and they learned so much, and it kind of opened up a whole bunch of possibilities, which is great. You know, it's not just showing a piece of equipment; it's sparking creativity and that kind of thing, which is the whole point of it.
Exactly.
You know?
So tell me a little bit about this post with Eddie Kramer with Amara Machine. What's up with that?
As far as I know, Eddie is partners or involved with the studio that bought Amara Machine.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah.
Is it his place
cool.
in, I think, Toronto, Canada? I know he has some old theater that he was converting to a studio.
I have no idea where the machine is. They're using it. The gentleman sent me an email and said that everything went great in the first several sessions, and the tape machine was the cherry on top. That's all he said.
Wow, that's that's cool. So, that's freaking cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of the goal of the company, is to not really need to know where every machine is. They just land and start working, you know?
Right,
but
right.
Have somebody like Eddie Kramer involved, you know, just really, I think that speaks more to the quality of work we're doing, because
absolutely,
you're not going to bluff a guy like Eddie.
No.
Eddie and his peers know what a tape machine should do. They're not overly enthralled at the idea of using a tape machine, right?
Right.
They just want it to work.
Yeah, he's not like me getting a tape machine, like, yay, cool. You know, we get to work on a tape machine. No, this is he's been there, done that. And
yeah,
I mean, not to mention his plug-in with Waves, which receives a lot of hate, but I love it for certain things. It's really freaking cool. And he did what he intended to do with it, which I think is the main goal. And obviously he has been very meticulous thinking about tape machines and what they do to be in partner with that whole piece of software. So
right. So that was fun.
Yeah, I guess so. So to not stay on tape for too long, but how much maintenance is generally required with a machine that someone gets from you? I mean, it's obviously been gone through top to bottom, and
very little, like very little. You know, our goal is to not be tied to the machine in a service contract or anything like that. That's not our goal. Our goal is much like this one. They create the machine, watch the DVD that we made to show them how to hook it up and use it, and then they're off to the race. You know, these things were made to be used and not have issues. If there are issues, they're simple fixes.
Yeah, and you can generally find the parts.
Yeah, and I tell people not to even really put a butt in for maintenance, you know? I mean, if something happens, the usually happens, just being completely frank, is the machine will ship and there'll be a couple Skype questions or emails because something got rattled, or, you know, because it shipped 1,200 and up a flight of stairs or whatever. But once it's sitting there and on and that piece is put back on, right, that rattle loose, I tell people not to even budget for a yearly maintenance quota on it, because it'll be so insignificant.
Yeah, that's something that would happen to a brand new anything. I mean, if you're shipping it.
Totally.
I mean, that's just just normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's reseating a tube. That's the kind of stuff. These don't have tubes, but it's that kind of process.
Well, let me ask you this. How much maintenance do you, I mean, you obviously have the setup there at your studio with all of this, but about how much maintenance and like how often do you have to recalibrate? I mean, and how much maintenance is on yours, because you're using yours pretty much every day.
Yeah, every day. We recalibrate our machine probably more than most people because we're doing a lot of transfers. So we would throw the calibration off to do a transfer for somebody and then recalibrate it to get it back, right? But other than that, I don't remember the last time I calibrated the machine, maybe 6 months ago. Just a quick cal.
Okay, so for a normal studio that doesn't use the tape machine every single day, they're maybe using it to bounce down to or for certain things. Man, I mean, wow. Yeah, even 6 months, that's a while, especially if you're using it all the time.
Yeah, and the machine doesn't drift. The tape formulation will change more than the tape machine will, right?
That's interesting.
You know?
Well, that leads me to another topic. Tape's really hard to come by, but you guys deal a lot with ATR, right?
Yeah, tape is super easy to come by. ATR makes it here in the States, and there's another company in, oh man, I can't remember where they are right now. The Netherlands, I think. And they're both readily available. There's dealers all over the place, so you can get tape whenever you need it.
Okay, so I'm wrong about that. I was under that's another myth that's busted, that you can't get tape. It's hard to get tape. I was in a shop down here a couple weeks ago buying some XLR and TRS connectors to do some soldering for the board, and the guy had ATR tape sitting there. So I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. So I didn't realize we had a dealer in town. That's nice. Yeah. So, moving on from that, you guys have been doing the electroplating which is the next step after cutting the lacquer for vinyl.
Yep.
Can you tell us about that, a little bit about the process and why that is so important?
Sure. So after lacquer is cut, a lacquer is basically a playable version of a record, right? It's a 14-inch metal disc with a little bit of lacquer on top of it. We cut grooves in that. Metal molds need to be made from that so we can get into vinyl production and mass production, right? So we take those lacquers and process them and spray them with liquid silver and put them in these, they're called baths that have nickel sulfonate in them, and then electricity's run through it, and a little bit of science, a little bit of luck, a lot of care, and we get what's called a stamper, which is a pure nickel reverse image of the lacquer. So it's ridges, not grooves, and that gets formed to fit the presses that it's going to and shipped to pressing plants. And we've been doing it a little over 3 years, and our business grows every month. We've got a really good business model. We're the only place in the country you can, as a client or a pressing plant, can send us a wave file and we can ship metal parts. And our business model is to do high quality and guaranteed turn times. So we have set turn times, and we're very software integrated with the people we work with, so they can see where their parts are being, they can see the process of what we're doing and all that kind of stuff. So,
as I understand, your machines are digitally controlled, though, right? So they're extremely
correct.
Precise. That was like
Yep.
a new thing, kind of a melding of new technology and old technology, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we were one of the first people to recreate plating equipment with new technology.
That's amazing, because it took the best of both.
Yeah, and if plating isn't done right, well, I always say this, but look at quality control in the vinyl making process, right? The vinyl record making process. A lacquer master can only sound as good as the digital mixes provided, right?
Right.
And the metalwork, the stamper can only sound as good as the lacquer, and the pressing can only sound as good as the stamper. So if the mastering isn't done quite right, then you lose some quality. And then if everything else is done great, you still lost quality. Or if the lacquer is great and the metalwork isn't done up to par, then everything drops. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the only way to know if it matters is once the client gets the test pressing and it gets rejected. So we make sure whatever we ship out is the same quality as what we get in, which requires a lot of attention to detail and eliminating variables and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a small, dedicated crew that gets bonuses based on quality, and I think that's the way it should be.
Oh, I agree, because if you guys are about anything, you are about quality. You can tell you guys really genuinely care about what you guys do, and it shows. As far as policy and things like that with the studio, I know the plating is a separate kind of entity in its own kind of way, but it's all same facility. But what are you go to your website, you have prices, you have different packages. There's no contact form and we'll give you a quote kind of thing. It's all there. Here it is, very transparent. So what are your thoughts on that as a business owner? Primarily as a recording studio kind of things.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we don't press records. So a lot of people think we press records.
Right,
so
right.
What we do, and what we do, I kind of really crunch the numbers on everything I'm involved in and just come up with a really fair price for me and for who's ever buying whatever it is, and just stick to it. The studio is set up at a day rate, and if you want 10 days, you add a zero. And the tape machines, I don't haggle on prices. This is a really good price. And if you don't feel that to be true, then I don't think we should do business.
Man, that's hard to, or at least for me, is kind of hard, because you want the business, right? But at the same time, I need to be better about that, actually.
Well, it's hard, and I don't like turning away work, but I know that if you're buying studio time, vinyl mastering, tape machines, or electroplating, your expectations, I would hope, are as high as mine. And for me to accomplish that, I know what that takes financially.
That's a very good point.
If you want it for less, then there are other people that will do that. But I'm not one of them.
Right.
And it's not that much more.
Right. And I respect that, because it's hard to get in that place, especially, when you're trying to get into doing whatever it is you're doing, and you're trying to build a portfolio, and hey, I'm here, I exist on planet Earth, and hey, can we do work together, please? And But once you get to, I finally have started getting, I have finally gotten to a place where I can start turning away business. And I learned my lesson a couple weeks ago. I fired the first client I've ever actually had to say, here's your money back. We're just not a good fit. I can recommend these people. Just step away from it because I knew it was going to be revision after revision after revision. I wasn't going to make him happy. We'd already retracked the song one time before. The first time was actually better than the second, you know. So it's just one of those kind of things. And, you know, we've all dealt with those kind of clients at some point. And that was me not sticking to my pricing. So because I'm like, well, I can do it for this. He knew he could do that kind of thing with me in other ways too. So
yeah, and I rarely have to go through that, luckily. But
that was the first time I've had to do that. That was weird for me.
Yeah, and what I look for is if someone is you know, if we're $20 off on a if we're $20 more than somebody else, and this happened in vinyl mastering, and we might not get the gig because it's $20, I don't care because
if $20 is the make or break when you're talking in terms of vinyl, because it's not cheap to do vinyl, especially pressing.
Right.
That something's off.
Well, it just turns into what I have learned and have to relearn a lot is it turns into a commodity. That means that if I drop it $20, then that client I did that for next week is going to find somebody who'll do it for $10 less, and I'll lose. You know, then I'm gone. It's a commodity, and I don't want clients like that.
Yeah, it becomes a race to the bottom at that point.
Yeah, I want people to understand our price structure, understand where their money's going, and find value in that. And then we work together because the resources, the selling points we're doing, like with plating, hey, we do 10-day guaranteed turns, we do 5-day guaranteed turns, 3 in 1 day. And we have transparency, we share software, and we have somebody named Sarah who runs that whole department. And if you email her and ask her what's going on, she gets back with you and tells you, and that costs money, and that affects the rate, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and it's worth that money. That's the thing, is eventually I've had clients, you know, they're like, you know what, I'm going to get you to do this because it's worth getting you to do this than it is for me to. I've had those conversations. I'm like, man, you know, awesome. And also it's kind of learning as you go too, figuring out, you know what, that didn't work. What does work?
Yeah.
It's all
and
a process.
If people don't find value in that, then that's awesome. I do, and I built a company based on that. And if you don't find value in what we're offering, that's awesome. I'm glad we figured that out.
Yeah, you have to value yourself first, or no one else will too. Yeah. Talk a little bit about your recording summit and your workshops and stuff. I know I have personally benefited and enjoyed them.
Well, thank you. Yeah, one of the cornerstones of me starting my own recording studio was to give me the ability to build community and do things that I wanted to do, having a space, right? And take some risks, not having to have an idea and rent a studio and to see if it works. And that's resulted in our annual recording summit, which has been wildly successful. I think 60 people attend it. We cap it at 60. It's always been 60. It will never get any more. And about 40 panelists are involved. It's always the second weekend of November. And the idea is to just do the panel part. You know, we curate really good panels. We get really good panelists that you may have heard of or you may not have heard of. I don't think having awards makes you, or not having awards doesn't make you relevant, and doesn't mean you have a voice.
Right.
You know, so our panelists are wildly varied, but I know all of them and I know what they're going to bring to the table, what perspective they're going to bring. So we have panels based on techie stuff. We have panels on business stuff. We have panels on creative stuff. We make sure it's about an equal blend. And I want it to be informative and positive and a good hang, because I know that I get frustrated. You know, I'll read magazines and there's a 3-paragraph or 4-paragraph story of Eddie Kramer, for instance, and he did 2 gigs and now he's famous, and that didn't happen to me. And you know, what the fuck, you know? And 80 or 100 people hanging out for a weekend in a recording studio talking about making records. You get to see that depth of field, and you get to hear the real stories, and it's not easy for anybody, and that kind of helps me manage my own expectations. You know?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because what is it? Don't judge your beginning by someone else's middle.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's hard, because you know, like the old phrase, like, you know, with 10 years of hard work, you too can become an overnight success. You know, very few people are are self-made or an overnight success. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Yeah, so that is my favorite thing, though, is the community aspect of it, is meeting people, and the fact that you have such a variety of people that are, well, just to name a few, Catherine and out in Arizona, and Andy Reid up in Michigan, people that are more a step a little bit ahead of where I'm at, that can add advice to something that I'm trying to figure out more in the stage of where I am. Not someone that's got golden platinum records and Grammys sitting everywhere, because that feels a little more attainable, and like their advice is a little more relevant to where I'm at, if that makes any sense. Plus getting to know them and becoming friends and the relationship and the network and all. Yeah, that's cool. And without the summit, I would not have met these people, and they're great people. That's the main thing. They're just great people.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and I think the answer a lot of times is somewhere in the middle. You take a nugget from somebody who has a bunch of Grammys and how they handle the situation, and you temper that with somebody who might be more in your career arc and how they handle things, and it's always good to kind of have a plan on how you're going to respond to different things. Or I'm really open with the stuff that I've tried. It might work for somebody else on the business side.
Right. Well, all right. So your workshops, those have been extremely fun and educational.
Yeah. And then we do 2 tape camps a year. Tape camps are our answer to people emailing all the time asking if they can hang out at sessions and learn about tapings. And so we dedicate a weekend in the spring and a weekend in the fall. 10 people attend. We hang out a lot and just do fun things that are involved with analog stuff. We do a lot of myth busting and comparing DAWs to tape machines, not sonically, but like, this is how you do it in Pro Tools. This is how you do it on tape. This is where this came from. This function in Pro Tools came from this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then we record, and everyone picks microphones and punches in, and just does it. It's fun.
Now, how often do you do vinyl camp? Is that once or twice a year?
Well, we kind of phased the vinyl camp out. It seemed a little too niche. So what we do is during our tape camps, we have a vinyl night that people can sign up for. That's an additional fee. Yeah. So that's been working out really well.
Yeah, and that's keeping it down to 2 times a year, and
yeah.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I know I personally have gained a lot from both, because it was a lot of aha, and hopefully at some point I may do that again, just to kind of hopefully have more aha moments, and especially with vinyl, because I probably said this the last time we talked, but when I came back to my studio in Pro Tools land, I'm like, I have to mix different now, because I'm thinking in more of physically something existing in terms of what will actually physically play back. And what if somebody wants to put this on vinyl?
Right.
I want to wrap this up. Thank you again, Chris. Is there something that you would like to say in regards to what you guys do, and maybe your thoughts and what you see where the industry seems to be kind of going with the resurgence of vinyl, and what do you see from your end?
I think the industry is going great. More music is being made now than ever before, and I think vinyl is awesome because it is the one thing that artists can sell and labels can sell. So that I think is going to go strong for a while, mainly because I haven't heard any rumors of another format. There's always been one on the horizon, right? That was CD, and CD was mini disc and Blu-ray and DVD and all that, and I don't really hear anything. So I think that's all great. I would just say just to support your local music community. We get a lot of emails about the studio. It's like, oh, it's so great you're there, and we love what you're doing, and it's like, well, book a day here and there. That'd be great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how we stay open, and there's a lot of ways you can support local businesses and small businesses. And I practice what I preach. I support local bands and go to shows. And, and the panelists that we come in, we
go to shows, go to your local record store.
We to come to the summit, we pay them per panel and get their hotel and stuff. So we're supporting them too,
Yeah.
And I think, people listening, please do check out the summit, the recording summit on Welcome to 1979's website. It really is a great way to kind of go back to the well and get re-inspired and have a whole new outlook. I mean, I look forward to it every year. I learn stuff every year, and we're the ones putting it on.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too, is going back to the well, getting kind of replenished, a yearly kind of, let's just chill and hang out and talk about audio and music. your special guests you've had, like Susan Rogers recorded Purple Rain, and Dave Hillis recorded Pearl Jam's 10, and Ken Calais recorded Rumors, and, all of that. That's really cool too. I mean, I think that was the only time I've ever listened to Purple Rain in a room full of people and no one sang along. It was a very respectful, just amazing moment. You don't get that moment in any other way. And just getting together and, hey, let's listen to a record front to back and then talk about it.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And I'll say this about the summit too. Number one question I get by email or through the website is, can I see some of this online? Is it recorded? Are the YouTube stuff? Are you going Facebook Live? And the answer is no, no, no. This is all about being there with like-minded people and experiencing it. It's not going to be put on ever recorded or put online, because that forces us to build community. And I've turned sponsors down. That was their caveat, is it had to be filmed. And I said, no, this is bigger than that. And I think it's disrespectful for the people that travel to Nashville and pay the money to then just take that and put it out on YouTube and anyone can watch it. That's disrespectful for them.
Well, in a way, and also it would be cool to be online and be able to partake in especially the panels and things like that. However, I fully agree with you, because the value of being somewhere is, what you're doing is different. I mean, everybody's got a webinar, and that's cool. They have value, but this is different. It's supposed to be different. Yeah. And I deeply respect that, because you could sell more quote unquote tickets, so to speak, and make a lot more money. But the value that you guys provide by doing that, by people having to physically be there, is immeasurable, in my opinion, because it's kind of like, I would like to relive a certain moment, but the memory is awesome, and being in the moment is something kind of rare these days.
Well, and there's people hanging out before and after panels. And
right.
If you're there, Grant, and you ask a question, because it's a conversation, there's not a stage and microphones and panelists separated from people. If you ask a question, that's going to spark another question.
Exactly.
And I want you there to ask that question, not watching it while you eat popcorn on your laptop.
Right.
So
in a Snuggie.
And there's plenty, the world is serviced with online stuff. There's YouTube tutorials. That's all taken care of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we're doing something different, believe it or not. So, but that's it. Yeah, please come to that. And if anything that 79 or Mara Machines is involved in can help anyone out, we'd love to be part of it.
Yeah, what's the website and way people can connect and check out what you're doing and how they can find out more? You're on social media. You're on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, it's Welcome to 1979 and Mara Machines. That's how you find us on Facebook, Instagram. It's .com after both of those. It's a small family-owned company, and we rock. So rock hard.
You do rock. Thanks again, Chris. Be safe on your way back to Nashville, man. Hopefully I'll be seeing you in a few days.
Sounds great, Grant. Looking forward to it.
Many thanks again to Chris Mara of Welcome to 1979 Studio and Mara Machines in Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks again for the wonderful interviews. Very much enjoyed them. I always enjoy talking with Chris. He's such a great guy and awesome at what he does. Very passionate about audio and music. And just both of these interviews, the first part of the interviews the first interview was conducted with him. As you may have noticed, he was on the road to Atlanta from Nashville. And the second part of the interview was him driving from Charlotte, North Carolina, back to Nashville. So we did this interview over two separate conversations and decided there was so much information packed into these interviews that we split them into 3 episodes. So thank you again to listening. And please give us a rating and a review. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're, as always, remind you that we are on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. We're just about everywhere. Tape Noise Podcasts, Muscle Shoals Storytellers, Polybius. That is our audio drama. If you're into that sort of thing, check us out there. Thanks again, and we look forward to sharing with you new interviews. And please keep listening.